After more than half a century, Sergeant Elijah Carter found himself standing quietly under the vast sky of the military cemetery. The rows of white tombstones stretched endlessly before him, each one a silent testament to lives given in service. The morning air was cool, heavy with the scent of freshly cut grass and the faint aroma of incense burning in the distance. Elijah's hands trembled slightly, not from age or cold, but from the weight of the moment. At 76 years old, his frame was stooped, and his face deeply lined with time and memories, some bitter, others precious. His uniform, though worn and faded, bore the insignia of the 101st Airborne Division, the unit he had served with in the jungles of Laos decades ago. Ahead of him stood General Samuel Pierce, tall, dignified, his silver hair catching the light, eyes sharp and steady despite the years. Elijah's heart tightened as he recognized the man who had once pulled him from the jaws of death in a faraway land where survival had been a daily battle. The reunion was silent at first, both men exchanging a look heavy with unspoken words, memories flooding between them like the relentless monsoon rains they had endured together. The ceremony began with a solemn drone of bugles, their haunting notes weaving through the stillness. Soldiers marched in perfect formation, the crunch of their boots on gravel echoing with steady rhythm. Elijah's eyes fixed on the flag-draped urn held carefully by General Pierce. It contained the ashes of General Thomas Bennett, their brother-in-arms, the man who had fought bravely alongside them and who had, years ago, sacrificed so much. As General Pierce stepped forward and placed the urn gently on the ceremonial table, his voice broke the silence, steady but thick with emotion. Today, we honor not just the service of General Bennett, but the unbreakable bonds forged in the heat of battle, bonds of loyalty, courage, and gratitude that endure beyond medals or accolades. Elijah swallowed hard, the memories crashing in, running through the dense jungle under heavy fire, the cries of wounded men, the desperate scramble to save one another. He thought of the night when General Pierce had risked everything to drag him away from the edge of death, pulling him through the darkness with unwavering resolve. With a solemn nod, Pierce turned to Elijah. "Elijah, I ask you to lead the final march for Thomas. It is a duty only you can bear. Your loyalty to him, to all of us, has never wavered." Elijah's throat tightened as he accepted the urn with reverent hands. The weight felt heavier than the physical object itself. It was the burden of memory, the charge to carry forward the story of sacrifice. As the procession began, Elijah led the group with slow, measured steps, each footfall a tribute to the past, each breath a silent prayer for those who never returned. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the voices of comrades lost but never forgotten. In that moment, amidst the gathered crowd and under the wide-open sky, Elijah felt the profound truth: the greatest honors are not the ribbons worn on a chest, but the enduring debts of loyalty we owe to those who stood by us in the darkest hours. The house was cloaked in quiet as Elijah sat alone at the worn wooden table, the single lamp casting a warm, flickering glow over the scattered remnants of a life shaped by decades of memories. The urn resting nearby seemed almost to pulse with silent stories, while his fingers trembled slightly, holding the fragile envelope that had arrived unexpectedly earlier that day, a letter from Thomas Bennett, written long ago but never sent until now, preserved like a time capsule of unspoken words. Slowly, carefully, Elijah broke the seal. The paper inside was brittle, edges yellowed and curled with age, but the ink remained clear. Thomas's handwriting, bold and steady, carried the unmistakable weight of a man who had lived fiercely and loved deeply. Elijah's eyes traced the first lines, each word a gentle echo from a past both distant and vivid. "My dearest Elijah," it began, "if you are reading this, it means fate has finally caught up with me, and I have passed beyond this world. Yet, in these final moments, I want to thank you for saving me once, and for saving me every day after that in ways you may never fully understand." Elijah felt his breath hitch. The letter unfolded stories he had buried deep, nights spent in the suffocating darkness of the jungle, when hope was a distant flicker and death lurked in every shadow. Thomas wrote of the time when Elijah's strong hands had dragged him from the edge of death, refusing to let go despite the gunfire and chaos surrounding them. "But it was more than that," the letter continued. "It was your unwavering loyalty, your silent courage that gave me strength when my own faltered. You were my brother, not by blood, but by bond. That bond saved me long after the war was over, in the years when ghosts haunted my nights and memories threatened to break me." Elijah's eyes stung with tears as the letter bared a vulnerability Thomas had never spoken aloud, the torment of survivor's guilt, the pain of loss, and yet, through it all, an abiding gratitude for a friend who had stood by him no matter the cost. You gave me a chance to live, to find peace, to heal, and to serve others in honor of those who never returned. Your friendship was my anchor, and even now, I carry it with me beyond the veil. The silence around Elijah deepened. Outside, the world continued on, indifferent and bustling, but here, in the quiet room, time seemed to fold upon itself. The letter was more than a message, it was a sacred relic, a bridge across decades, a testament to courage that did not need medals or ceremonies to be real. Elijah pressed the paper to his lips, feeling the weight of every unspoken memory, the laughter shared in fleeting moments of respite, the tears shed for lost comrades, the promises made silently under foreign stars. The ache in his chest was profound, a mixture of grief, love, and something fiercely hopeful. He knew then that this letter was Thomas's final gift, a call to remember not just the horrors of war, but the enduring power of loyalty and brotherhood. As Elijah folded the letter gently and placed it close to his heart, he vowed to carry their story forward, honoring the past with every step he would take. The day of the inauguration dawned clear and bright, the sunlight spilling warmly over the newly built Thomas Bennett Veterans Rehabilitation Center. Its glass facade gleamed with a quiet dignity, a testament to hope and healing rising from the scars of war. Soldiers, veterans, families, and community members gathered in respectful silence, the hum of whispered conversations blending with the distant song of birds. Elijah Carter stood quietly near the entrance, his frame small and humble amid the crowd. His once dark hair was now silver, his face marked by time and hardship, but his eyes held a steady calm that spoke of decades of endurance and resilience. In his hands, he clutched a single, wilted white flower, a simple gesture of remembrance and mourning, delicate yet profoundly meaningful. General Samuel Pierce was already on the stage, speaking with quiet authority about the legacy of Thomas Bennett, not only as a soldier but as a man who had dedicated his life to serving others long after the guns fell silent. His voice carried through the crisp air, filled with respect and a touch of sorrow. "Elijah," Pierce called gently as he approached the veterans and organizers, "would you do us the honor of saying a few words?" Elijah nodded, swallowing a lump that had formed in his throat. He stepped forward slowly, every movement deliberate, carrying the weight of decades of memories and the unspoken stories of sacrifice. "My brothers and sisters," he began, his voice steady despite the flood of emotion, "we are gathered here today not to celebrate glory, but to remember what it truly means to serve. Thomas Bennett was not just a leader, he was a friend, a guardian, a light in the darkest times. And though he is gone, his spirit lives on in the courage we carry, the lives we heal, and the memories we hold dear." His gaze swept over the crowd, veterans who had known the brutal price of war, families who had lost loved ones, young soldiers just beginning their journey. Elijah's voice softened, heavy with humility. "This center is more than bricks and mortar. It is a promise that those who have given so much will never be forgotten, that their wounds, visible or not, will be tended with the care and respect they deserve." He held up the wilted flower gently. I bring this flower today, not because it is beautiful, but because it has endured despite hardship, like the men and women we honor. It reminds us that remembrance is not always bright and fresh, but it is always sincere." A hush fell over the crowd. Some eyes glistened with tears, others bowed in quiet reverence. Elijah stepped down, the flower now laid with care near the cornerstone of the center. As the ceremony closed, Elijah felt a deep sense of peace settle within him. The years of silence, the ghosts of the past, and the bonds of brotherhood had all found their place in this moment, a legacy not of medals, but of loyalty, courage, and the quiet strength to carry on. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across the facade of the rehabilitation center, Elijah remained standing alone for a while, his gaze fixed on the engraved name of Thomas Bennett beside the entrance. There were no grand speeches left to give, no salutes or marching drums, only the quiet hum of wind through the trees and the echo of a life that had mattered. In the silence, he felt the presence of those he had lost, not as ghosts, but as gentle shadows watching over a world they had helped shape. Elijah understood now that true honor wasn't etched in stone or pinned to uniforms. It lived in moments like this, a worn letter read under lamplight, a trembling hand offering a faded flower, a center built not to glorify war but to heal its wounds. He turned to leave, the ache in his chest no longer one of sorrow alone, but of fulfillment. The past had spoken, the future had listened. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of this world, a brother in arms smiled. Let this story not fade into silence. For every Elijah Carter, for every Thomas Bennett, there are thousands more whose sacrifices remain unseen, whose pain echoes quietly behind closed doors. Let us honor them not only with ceremonies, but with action. Visit your local Veterans Center. Listen to their stories. Fund programs that support their healing. Advocate for mental health care, for dignity, for belonging. Because remembrance means nothing if it is not lived. Let us be the generation that carries the weight of memory not as a burden, but as a responsibility, to heal, to protect, to never forget.